I wanna talk with you about this is the last topic. I really
Mm,
want to talk about with you about autism and dating.
of course.
Of course, I'm. You know the context of this uh,
Yeah,
excursion into autism.
yeah,
Basically, the idea is that autism is a very high, maybe the single best predictor of inceldom.
hmm,
You are not an incel, I know. You have talked about this, but there seems to be quite some overlap, and it feels
yeah,
like some of the problems that you have described in your relationships, or or also in dating in general,
yeah,
might be the reason for that. So yeah, maybe can you go into these issues that you've had?
yeah, yeah. So I mean, one of the main like premises of my channel really is that I kind of go against the grain of what a lot of online people who are, you refer to as black pillars, right, say that like the main determiner of dating success is just like sort of physiology, right, like physiological, like physical appearance, right, and yeah, I kind of go against that because like in my experience, and this isn't me trying to humble brag, this is just me kind of stating it as a fact of context. Like I am 185 centimeters tall. I have, at least by a lot of standards, like I go to the gym, like I have quite good muscle tone. I have, a jawline. I am Caucasian because apparently that matters and stuff according to these people. And despite that, like my experience, like when I compare it to most people my age, I have had some experience. Like I said, I'm not, an incel or whatever. Like it's still very limited, and it's been very challenging. And I have like, the thing is, I haven't like been rejected all my life even. Like I've actually had like lots of opportunities looking back where women have been very interested in me to the point where like I didn't realize it for a while because of my just, my autism basically. Like they're literally asking me to go and have sex with them in their room kind of thing, and like go back to their apartment with them and have sex with them. Like this has happened multiple times, and I have just literally been oblivious to it, you know. It's like, like literally one time someone literally asked me, and she wasn't bad looking either. She's like, "Oh, hey, why don't you come back and have wine at my place and drink wine and we'll just talk." And I was just like, in my mind, I just took that literally, and I was like, okay, I could come have wine with you. That would be cool. But I was gonna go to this party later and stuff. And so I was like, okay, yeah. Well, I just kind of like shrugged it off, sort of thing. And I look back and I'm like, ah, shit. Like things like that, right? And just like the fact that generally, like people can initially be interested in me, and I can like that's cool and stuff. But then I just fuck it up, like saying the wrong thing or whatever, or just not reading the room properly, right? It goes back to that thing, just lack of social skills. And, I realized like after doing research and stuff, but it's not just me, it's actually really common. Like there's a study that shows that, and this wasn't taken on like teenagers. This was a study on like autistic adults. So the median age, I think it was about like 37 or something. I can send you the link, and it was like they were surveying autistic men, and it was about like, oh, like how often they have sex and like their relationship status and stuff. And the answer for never was 44.6%, nearly half. The answer for like less than once a month was like another 30% or something. And so basically, like it turns out that like if you really like look at the statistics, only about 20% of autistic men are like having normal a normal relationship experience, which is huge, right? And if you
Yeah.
compare that to like, like there's been like studies done on things like um people's height and stuff, and like like relationship between like male height and body count. And oh, it's like if you're like 5'3" or whatever, like oh, it goes down to like oh, you maybe had like six sexual partners in your lifetime as
Yeah.
opposed to like nine or something. And, you know, yeah, that's a difference, but actually if you look at the difference between that and compare it to, like, autistic people, you know, it's quite clear,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
that autism is the most prominent factor. And I've actually spoken to a lot of people, you know, who have found my channel and stuff, who, you know, are like asserting that, oh, it's all about looks and stuff. But when you actually realize, like, they actually have really shit social skills and may even qualify for an autism diagnosis, you
Hmm.
know, and that's not me having a go at them. That's just me kind of observing it. And yeah, and then also the other thing is when you kind of if you know, if you go outside and look around, you know, it's not just like, oh, it's not just guys who are 6 foot, like surfer dudes with girlfriends. Like, no, there are people way shorter than me who, you know, had girlfriends when they were like 16 years old and stuff, you know, and it's just this whole like narrative that's being put about online, it just doesn't add up. And you know, while I do have sympathy for anyone who, you know, is struggling with loneliness and stuff, you know, I just wanted to kind of point that out. So that's
Um,
kind of what I've done.
you've said something really interesting. You said that you're not able to pick up on cues basically for sexual advances that were made towards you.
Yeah. I
And
mean, the thing is, like, you asked me it now, it's like looking back, you know, if you put me in a time machine, took me back there. Now,
yeah,
yeah, I could because looking back, I've realized it, right? But it's too
because
late.
you've hard coded these clues into your
I think so. Yeah.
system. Yeah, but I feel
Yeah.
like,
But yeah.
funnily enough, I feel like we all did kind of, right. So, like, to a certain extent, maybe not hard coded, but
Mm,
to a certain extent, everyone had to learn that. I feel like, because I also remember that I mean, this is it's still like sex and intimacy and all of these things are still a topic that we navigate, that is happening between men and women in a very implicit
mm,
way, and it's really
right.
not explicit at all. And like, it is women generally, like, mostly phrase their advances such that it never explicitly means that. It is always like, there is always some implicitness there, right, because of, yeah, just social pressure. So I feel like that's,
Yeah. But it's like if a woman like yeah, if you're talking to a woman and like she says something to you and it's like, you know, like a lot of people can tell like if they mean it literally and stuff, right? Or not,
mhm.
you know? And
So,
for me it's
like, with
much
the
harder
wine,
to tell
right?
that.
Do you want to come
Sorry?
upstairs? Like,
Yeah.
you went on a date, you bring her home, and then she's like, oh, do you want to come upstairs, have a glass of wine?
Yeah.
Or I mean, do you want to watch a movie or something like that? I mean, everybody knows that
Mm.
it's not about the movie, it's about, becoming intimate with
Well,
that person.
I didn't learn that until a lot later than most people because that just didn't click.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I feel like that you
Mm.
having to learn that
Yeah.
is not really
Mm.
unique. Is something that we mostly all did. Think maybe I'm autistic too, but uh,
Mm.
I think I feel like I had to learn that to a certain extent, uh,
Mm.
to interpret the signals that women give.
Mm.
Yeah, I feel like I had to learn that.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, that's something that, yeah, like obviously it happened later than I wish it did, but you know, I feel like I am now in a better position to realize when I'm getting those signals from women now, you
Yeah,
know? So like I said, if that happened to me right now, you know, like if some woman, you know, if I went to some party next week and someone came up to me and was like, "Hey, do you want to come back to my place and like, oh, have some tea and watch a movie with me?" You
yeah,
know, like I might now think like, "Oh, okay, all right,
yeah.
I'm in," kind of thing.
Hmm.
But like, you know, it took a while for that to happen. You know, and
So you would say the biggest difference between you and neurotypical people is that you took longer to learn that, and it's
yeah,
more
because
work.
I actually had to sort of like sit. I actually like I was like going on a long walk or something. You know, like a
Yeah.
while after it happened, I was thinking, "Oh, right, that's actually what she meant," kind of,
Hmm.
because, it's like, I remember, like I don't know if you ever played Grand Theft Auto, like Grand Theft Auto 4. But in that, like I think he's called like Nico, right? Like he has
Mm-hmm.
like there's a dating option, right, where you can like go and date girls and stuff. And I remember like after
Yeah,
one time
true.
like
I
going on a
remember.
date, and I remember just like it was like there was like after you drop the girl off, there's like an option that comes up. It's like, oh, you're gonna say goodbye or ask to come in for some coffee. And I was always just like, dude, like it's like really late. Like I don't want to go in for coffee. Like I just want to go home and do another mission sort of thing. You know, like
Okay, but
because
there
like
you don't really get the
I
reward.
took it literally. Kind
Yeah.
of yeah,
uh,
uh, weird. Yeah.
but you still have to. Do you still have to hard code these things basically?
Yeah, because I mean, it's like now I know that, if a girl asks me like, oh, if I want to go to her place to have some wine, I know what that means now, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you know, it's just like maybe it's a bit of confidence, I suppose, but it's just like, it feels like I'm playing catch up really
Mm-hmm.
with stuff like that.
What about
Like,
dating other autistic people?
yeah,
Has
well,
that
I
ever
have
been
done
an
that.
option for you? Have you done
Well,
that?
yeah, I have done that, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, most of my relationship experience has actually been with other autistic people, like
Mm-hmm.
serious relationship experience at least.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, that has been, um, yeah, more satisfactory, you could say, right? And yeah, I feel like there has been much more mutual understanding, more on a similar playing field.
Mm-hmm.
However, what people like a lot of neurotypical people, especially looking in, what they don't understand is that the dating circumstances for autistic women can be drastically different to those for autistic men. For example, like a lot like autistic women, like women generally don't have a hard time like getting laid. And, so autistic women are, very rarely, if ever, involuntarily celibate. They're either asexual and don't care at all, don't want to date anyone, or they can just, boot up Tinder or, get
Mm-hmm.
laid and they can go on dates with neurotypical people. Because a lot of the time you see autistic women dating neurotypical men, but it's quite rare that you see that the other way around.
I mean, yeah, that's also a big topic on this channel. My defending of the existence of fem cells.
Mm,
But yeah, at least in a theoretical
yeah.
sense.
And I guess I have kind of tried to develop this idea that, like the view of sexuality and stuff is different for women. Like, yeah, just because women can get laid, it doesn't mean that it's like it feels to them the same as like a
Yeah,
guy getting laid, right?
yeah, that's the
Because
first
it's
thing.
like,
Like,
yeah,
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 and then the other
because
thing is also like celibacy. Seeing celibacy only as a sexual thing is also not that correct. I think for
mm,
both sexes
oh
doesn't
yeah, of
matter.
course,
It's more
yeah,
about romantic intimacy, and I feel like uh,
yeah,
that's
mm,
even if autistic women might have it really easy or
mm,
not significantly harder than
mm.
neurotypical women to get laid. I I can imagine that it must still be harder to find a romantic partner. Am I
Oh yeah,
right?
definitely. Because yeah, well, I mean, and that's actually quite an unfortunate phenomenon is that like a lot of autistic women will just get pumped and dumped, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, it's kinda hard, like, from a male autistic perspective to understand that because it's like, "Oh, wait, if I get sex and then they, like, they call an Uber for me and send me home and I never have to see them again," it's like, "Oh, that sounds ideal sometimes," right? But for women, that's a very different, like, subjective experience, right? And I do kind of acknowledge that now, you know?
Yeah, and also there's this. I mean, I know that autistic people have a. I heard at least I don't know how true that is, but because of the fact that honesty and the honesty kind of comes from taking things very literal, right? And also the disability to lie themselves and to
Mm,
also detect lies, right? So that
Yeah,
makes you very prone to be taken advantage of in many
definitely.
situations. So I can
Oh yeah,
imagine that that must be pretty brutal for in dating circumstances as
yeah,
well, right?
yeah. And I think it can become very hard because it's like, now I've kind of learned that, yeah, like, women who don't really like, want anything to do with you will just like make excuses. They'll be like, "Oh, I really want to see you, but I'm busy," and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that took and again that I kind of had to like sort of like learn that kind of thing and stuff like manually and and yeah and just like that has kind of like affected my confidence a bit because it's like you know, because there's like all this layer of deception, right? Where it's like people aren't actually saying what they mean, and I feel like there's just like, and again, yeah, I'm not saying that neurotypical people are like have perfect social skills or anything, but it's like most people just seem to have that advantage over me where they get that sense kind of what's going on
Mm-hmm.
better than I do,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah, that's
yeah,
scary, right?
yeah,
I can
because I don't
imagine that's
know,
scary.
I don't know where I stand, yeah.
Yeah. Have you
And,
watched?
yeah, like for an autistic girl, maybe the equivalent is like some neurotypical guy saying I love you, having sex with you, and then ghosting you. But, for
Yeah.
an autistic guy, it's like, oh, some girl you don't even know whether she likes you at all or not. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's,
Uh, uh,
yeah.
have you watched the Three Body Problem on Netflix?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I quite
I
like it.
really, yeah, I read the books like years ago. I don't know, like 5 6 years
Mm,
ago. It's
mm,
I really love the books. The series is okay. It's a little bit
mm.
like Hollywoodized and
Yeah,
Netflixized,
of
but
course.
there is this one scene where the aliens. Okay, this is spoiler alert. So if you want to watch it, then don't listen now. There is this one scene where the aliens find out that human beings can lie, where basically the guy is basically telling them.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah,
remember that? So I was like, damn, these like the aliens are. This is like what we were talking about at the beginning is the planet of autistic people,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It was really interesting to hear somebody explain lies. Have you struggled with that, or is
yeah.
it were you so much surrounded of it that you basically hard coded it
Yeah, I
early?
mean, it doesn't, yeah, like it didn't come naturally to me, but I've learned to lie a bit, I suppose,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Like when someone asks me if I'm feeling all right, most of the time, just say
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, no, yeah, it doesn't come naturally. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's like I feel naturally inclined to
Mm-hmm.
honesty because it's just, yeah. But yeah, like as a survival mechanism, I have manually learned to lie. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I almost do feel in a way like that was a bit disingenuous of like the free body problem because if you've got an intelligent civilization like that, surely they would have been through this, you know, like this, evolution of the idea of deception, right? Like, because it's advantageous to deceive people sometimes. I realize that now, you know. But I suppose, yeah, I suppose that's kind of going back to your idea, right, of like having this civilization, if you like, where yeah, everything is just totally honest and no bullshit kind of thing. But it's like maybe that can be better for the advancement of that civilization, right?
Yeah,
That
so I
kind of.
think in the book they have a direct connection between their brains, so they can
Mm,
basically read each other's thoughts all the time.
mm,
So there is
right.
no possibility for there is no dissonance between spoken words and thoughts
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
So that's why they don't have a concept of lying in
Mm,
the book as far as I can remember, but it's been a while. And yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's a little bit different. They don't really go into details in the series.